This is Will Middleton from WPCourseGuide.com, and today we're going to talk through a question I saw in the LifterLMS Facebook group. If I pull it up here on screen, the question was, happy holidays everyone, hope you had a great week. I've got a question for agency owners. I'm looking to integrate the Lifter Infinity Bundle into my agency for Q2 of this year, and I wanted to know what gaps need filling with other plugins, any frustration, wants, or needs. Not looking to bash a plugin, looking at a holistic view of how it can go in with my eyes open. I'll be testing everything, but I'd love to hear what experience Lifter users are working with. And so I wrote out a few of the tools that I use on most of my projects. If I'm using a project with LifterLMS, these tools are probably involved in some way, shape, or form, unless LifterLMS covers the feature set of what I need. LifterLMS has a massive feature set, memberships, courses, quizzes, all kinds of stuff, but sometimes there's a need to integrate with an email list tool, and so for that I would likely use WP Fusion. For connecting to CRMs other than ConvertKit and MailChimp, LifterLMS has a ConvertKit integration, it has a MailChimp integration. Tools like Groundhog have an integration with Lifter. Fluent CRM has an integration with Lifter. But if you're using something like ActiveCampaign, for example, there's not an ActiveCampaign integration that's been developed by Lifter or one that's been developed by ActiveCampaign, so WP Fusion is the perfect solution for that. If you're using MailChimp or ConvertKit or Groundhog or Fluent CRM, one of these tools that already has an integration with LifterLMS, WP Fusion also has features to offer as well. It has more advanced features than what those existing integrations have. So I'd recommend checking out WP Fusion if you're trying to integrate with emails in some way, this tool, and looking at the feature set, the triggers and actions that it has for LifterLMS is a really good resource. And Elementor. Elementor for advanced design, Beaver Builder as well is another great tool for that advanced design. If you're not happy with the WordPress block editor out of the box, if you're not happy with the options you have available, and something like Cadence Blocks or Spectra, those free plugins, those are two more that I don't have on the list, Cadence Blocks and Spectra. If you're using the block editor, those are useful tools, but if you want to go even more advanced, Elementor or Beaver Builder are my recommended page builders for that. Managed WordPress hosting. So this isn't a plugin, but I recommend having managed WordPress hosting whenever you're hosting a LifterLMS website, a LearnDash website, TutorLMS. Whenever you're working with an LMS website, managed WordPress hosting is super nice because the website's trying to do a lot of complex things. It's having user logins, user purchases, all this advanced stuff. It's serving dynamic content, basically. So if the user's logged in, if the user's logged out, the website's going to look different. If the user's completed a lesson or not completed a lesson, the website's going to look different. So we want to be communicating with the database as much as possible, so we don't want caching. A lot of more budget website hosts will remove caching options from your ability to control, so I always like to have the managed WordPress hosting where not only are they familiar with how WordPress works, hopefully they're familiar with how dynamic content works, maybe your website host is also familiar with LifterLMS, but you'll also have the ability to have a caching exclusions list and say, hey, I don't want my lost password page to be cached. Managed WordPress hosts will usually have that. WP Mail SMTP or something like SendWP. We need some kind of solution to make sure that the website is sending emails properly. It's sending lost passwords, sending purchase receipts. If you're running a CRM out of the back end of your website, that's also super important. If you're using a Fluent CRM or you're using Groundhog, you need to make sure you have an SMTP solution so your emails you're sending your users are going through. So WP Mail SMTP or SendWP. I have a checklist at the end of this video. You'll get a link to that, or you can find it in the description if you scroll down, with all these tools on it and links to these tools, so don't worry about remembering everything I'm talking about just offhand. So Gravity Forms or WS Form, those are my top two form tools for creating student information forms. If I'm in a lesson and I want students to submit information, I'm going to use a Gravity Form or a WS Form for that. And if I want to, I might do a custom registration form, I might need to do a contact form, I might want to do something advanced. Having a forms tool is sometimes necessary for those more advanced customer interactions. User switching is a utility that your customers will love to have where they can actually go to the users list in the backend of WordPress, click switch to, and it'll switch them to a user. So in WP admin users, you can view a user's profile, you can edit a user profile, but with this free plugin, you can switch to that user and view the website as them. So if a student says, I can't complete the lesson because I can't take the quiz, you can go into the backend of WordPress, switch to their account, and see what the website looks like from their perspective. And so you might actually find the issue, or maybe it's something on their end that's the issue. So that plugin is just super nice to have, free plugin. Another free plugin, WordFence Security, makes two-factor authentication for WordPress admins super simple. So you can force admins to receive a text message notification or receive, for my websites, I do the code, the Authenticator app, where I have an app on my phone and I scan the QR code. And so in order to log into my WordPress websites, you need my username and my password, but you also need to physically have my phone in order to have the Authenticator app, the 6-digit code from my Authenticator app. WordFence allows you to do that for website admins, and so I really love that feature to really lock down the administrative part. So the security for admins is super important, so I love that feature. But also, I've had to clean malware out of a lot of websites, and the first thing I do when I'm cleaning malware is I install WordFence, run a WordFence scan, and it tells me in the WordPress file manager which of the files contain suspicious code, and then I'll go into the file manager, go in and find where that code is at, delete it, and then it helps me clean out malware. So it prevents malware from getting into your website in the first place. It prevents users from being able to access the WP admin, even with more restrictions. And if there is malware on the website, it makes cleaning it a lot easier. H5P is a unique learning experience where you can create HTML-based interactive content where you can do like drag and drop, flashcards, all kinds of things that you can't really do with WordPress out of the box or LifterLMS out of the box. Like video embeds, you can embed a Vimeo video in your LifterLMS website. You could embed an image, a PDF, all that kind of stuff comes with WordPress out of the box. But what if you wanted to do flashcards, for example? What if you wanted to do a crossword puzzle? There are some more advanced features H5P has to offer. It's an open source platform at h5p.org, and there's a link to that in the PDF resource with this video as well. But it allows you to do some more of those advanced items, fill in the blanks, all kinds of really interesting interactive content to help your learners understand and interact with subjects in more interesting ways than videos, pictures, and text that you could do out of the box. Groundhog or Fluent CRM. These are CRMs that are going to run out of the back end of your WordPress website. The websites I've seen these work the most successfully on are under 5,000 students. And of course, this can be scaled. It's WordPress. You can have developers scale anything you want. And so I don't want to have the impression that Groundhog or Fluent CRM could not be on a website with millions of users, because they absolutely could. But once you're at the point of developing custom infrastructure to support your LMS website and having custom developers do the work to make sure that these CRMs are operating efficiently out of the back end of your website, it might be worth developing a custom CRM solution, or it might be worth offloading those users or something like that. And I don't mean email list size, I mean like 5,000 students, users on your website, like 5,000 students who've purchased your course inside of LifterLMS. Because once you're running a CRM or an email list tool is like ActiveCampaign or MailChimp, but these are options you can do in the back end of your WordPress website. And when you have a bunch of contacts stored in your WordPress database, a bunch of users stored in your WordPress database, a bunch of users doing quizzes and courses and marking lessons complete and submitting Gravity forms that are also in your WordPress database, you're storing so much data inside the database. At that point, for my projects, I try to separate them. I try to separate my CRM out of my WordPress, not store that stuff in the database. I try to separate my forms. I don't want to store my forms data in the database. I want to send that data to Google Drive or something. I just want my website to be optimized and fast for WordPress admins, but also for front-end users. So that's why I usually avoid going over 5,000 students with these CRMs, but 95% of the clients I work with are under 5,000 students anyway. So it's like, why would you want to go with a more complex CRM that is external of your website? Like, if we're still figuring out the business model, if we're still figuring out what customers are interested in, if we're still figuring out how to sell customers, how to build pipelines, how to build our funnels, if we're still figuring all this stuff out because we're under 5,000 customers, I think these options have an edge. I think they're a little bit more favorable, because I don't really want to think about sending data between my WordPress website and ActiveCampaign, or sending data between my WordPress website and MailChimp when I'm under 5,000 students. Because when I'm at that small scale, when I'm under 5,000 buyers, I'm still figuring out what my business is about. and what my customers are looking for and how my customers want to interact with my brand. So I don't want to be worried about all the technical automation about like, how do I send this data over here, and now they're in MailChimp and I have to learn how to set them up in MailChimp. MailChimp makes an update and changes what it used to be called tags and lists, and now you have groups and journeys and stuff. Like, I don't want to learn about all that. I'm just trying to figure out what my business is. So that's why I prefer these back-end WordPress solutions for users under 5,000 students. Hopefully that wasn't too much of a rabbit hole, but that's what my thinking is behind why would we go with a back-end CRM and why would we go with a separate CRM. And all the CRMs have features that support small businesses and that also support big businesses. That's just kind of how I think about the advantages and disadvantages at a small business level. What advantages are we looking for? And at the big business level, what advantages are we looking for? And so there's a link in the description to the checklist with all of the tools I just talked about and more. Tools like Yoast SEO I didn't talk about in this video, but having an SEO tool is something that any WordPress website that cares about ranking on Google is going to want. And there's no email or info required for the download. And if you have any more specific questions, drop them in the YouTube comments below. If you want to hear a more in-depth view of the company perspective, the company's history, who owns it, all that kind of thing. If you want to hear about the code perspective, what the products look like performance-wise, or utility to the business. What size of the business should I be running this tool at? We talked about that a little bit with Groundhog, Fluent CRM, backend, WordPress versus separate CRM. But if you have any questions on any of those specific tools and how they relate to these questions, feel free to drop those in the comments below. And my business at wpcourseguide.com. I do consulting, live coaching on Zoom, full site builds, and custom development of plugins, extending plugin functionality. Anything you want to build in WordPress, feel free to shoot my way and I can let you know if that's a project that I can help with, or if I can refer you to anyone else I know who can help. And for the next video, I'll be diving into is I feel overwhelmed with SEO. So this is a question I got from my Airbnb host in Georgia who runs a business as a solo entrepreneur, and we'll be talking about this in the next video, is how can I think about growing my SEO? What strategies can I use that require minimum effort? Not because we're lazy, but because as a solo business operator, you've got to worry about the legal parts of the business, the customer marketing part of the business, the tech side of the business. There's so many pieces that you're juggling as an individual operator and a solo operator in a business. What can we do for 1 hour a week and for 2 hours once a quarter in order to upgrade our SEO game, basically? And what can we do to grow SEO with free tools versus paid tools? And what should I do if I have a multi-language website? How do I rank in multiple languages? Do I do one website? Do I do two websites? We'll dive into all that in the next video. My name is Will Middleton from wpcourseguide.com. Check out that link in the description for all the tools that we talked about here in the video. And let me know any questions you have about building in WordPress in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video.